What's going on, guys? Welcome to the UrCast at Home. I'm your co-host, Cory, and with me today is the man who's being vetted from 20 questions from you guys, Cole.
Great to see you, Cory, and great to see you guys. It's super excited to be here in a visual format. We want to start doing this a lot more. So this is the first, and it's only going to grow from here.
Yeah, so today we wanted to hop into a little bit of video for YouTube. I have asked you guys on Twitter, and I've asked people in our own gameplay circle to give me 20 questions of things they would like to know about Cole. He has not seen them, so we're going to go through them today. Hopefully you guys get to know a little bit more about Cole, and it just gives us like a little bit of practice on camera and a chance for you guys to see us and, you know, take the channel and build it to bigger heights.
I'm excited. Let's do this.
All right, Cole. We're going to start off with the most important question in all of Magic. Like, this is it.
Drum
Question
roll,
number 1. Do you pay the one?
I pay the one. I always pay the one. You know, sometimes you can't pay the one, and I don't pay the one. But I am a huge enthusiast of paying the one and preventing people from getting the value out of their Rhystic Study, their Esper Sentinel, their Mystic Remora. I'm not paying the 4. I'm not paying the 4. You can have that trigger.
So you pay the 1 but not the 4?
I pay the 1, not the 4.
That's fair. That's fair enough. All right, number 2. Best counterspell. What is the best counterspell in your eyes?
Well, it's got to be Counterspell. Blue. No.
Question 1 is, do you pay the 1? Question 2 is, what do you do with those 2 untapped blue mana?
I'm a fan of the classic negate. Just say no. Just say no.
That does have like the best flavor text, I think, of all of them. Because isn't there an alternate? It's either that or Counterspell where it says like, that's a nice spell you have. It would be a shame if something were to happen to it.
Right. It represents the perfect... Oh, well, okay. I'm so sorry. I'm changing my answer. Last call.
Mana Drain.
Swan Song.
Oh.
I like Swan Song. It turns a spell into a bird. You get, a fun little 2/2 bird token out of it. And sometimes that flyer changes the game.
Where do you stand? I mean, I know this is not necessarily the question, but if you're pro Swan Song, where do you stand on like an offer you can't refuse? Because it's kind of the same, but also a little different.
I really like an offer you can't refuse. Any 1 mana counterspell. I mean, obviously, we could be talking about the best counterspells, 0 mana counterspells, Pact of Negation, Force of Will, Fierce Guardianship. But I try not to play those as often, so I think anything for 1 mana is a steal, even if it gives
Mana
treasures.
Tithe, all that kind of stuff.
Mana Tithe, maybe not as
as high up there.
Much.
So what he said, best counterspell, any counterspell you can afford to play is what.
Right.
All right. I like this one. What is your favorite and least favorite color or color combination?
Well, my favorite combination is anything with black. I really like black decks focusing around the graveyard and paying life as a resource. That was kind of my start into my foray into Magic. And I've really been enjoying Dimir recently. I would say that's my favorite color combo. My least favorite color combo is honestly, it's probably going to be 5 colors. I do not like. I love all decks and I'll play against anything. I'm really not one to get too salty. But I think sometimes when you got all 5 colors, it's just so easy to throw in all the good stuff and let it whirl.
So like turns your brain off a little bit?
Sometimes. But the mana base is, that's a fun challenge, and you're going to be suffering if I play a Blood Moon. So I think we're good either way.
Okay. Now, I think that ties back into another one. Not on the list, by the way. Not on this 20. But, we keep bringing it up. Dimir Daddy? Yes or no? Get in the comments. Dimir Daddy. We will. I will print it on a pair of like gym shorts for him. I can or cannot promise that he'll wear them, but vote yes, Dimir Daddy, and we'll get like a juicy Dimir Daddy
custom, like the pink.
Yeah. I cannot tell you where the little eye beetle logo will be located on these shorts, but
follow us on Patreon for that exclusive video.
All right. What do you think's the best and worst plane?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. My best plane is probably going to be Ravnica.
Mhm.
I really like the guilds. I think that, there's so much story in Ravnica, and it's always a fun time when we go to Ravnica.
Okay.
Least favorite, worst planes. Oh, that's gonna have to be like some awful old plane, like Homelands or something like that.
What was it, Arabia?
Arabia
or
Arabian
whatever?
Nights. But in recent times, I wasn't really crazy about the Brothers' War, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay, going back to Dominaria and all that.
Yeah. I love Dominaria. I love the Dragon. I love the stories. But sometimes it can be a little too much.
I think that's a lot of people's complaint about Ravnica, though, is like, how many times do you go to the well? But I can see that with Dominaria too, because how many times are you going to go to the well? Okay, I like this one. This one is, what is the first deck you ever built?
Okay, so the first deck I ever had, or the first deck I ever built?
I did clarify this. By the way, it is the first deck you ever built. So don't include precons, but something you at least, I would say, either majorly upgraded or built from scratch.
My first ever deck that I built from scratch was Shirei Shizo's Caretaker.
Okay.
It's a mono black 1/1 black weenies deck where you're trying to get a lot of value out of 0/4s and things with 1 power or less toughness. What it all came down to was a lot of imps and rats that are making people discard, and I'm just trying to loop them on every single turn. It was so much fun. It was like an engine when it got going, but it was just so susceptible to removal because Shirei would just get removed because nobody likes getting Thought Picker witched a million times. I'm controlling everybody's top decks. It was a ton of fun, but I've since upgraded that deck and kind of changed it into Marchesa, the Black Throne. A lot of the same pieces. I also have a Grinzo deck, which took my small creatures. So I still have my Shirei deck. It's just in the soul of my other deck.
Sure. It's the shell. His shell will live on.
The husk.
I've wanted to build that deck because I actually got one of the new arts from Commander Masters where he's got like the profile.
Yes.
But
Shirei,
yes,
I believe.
he is 100% getting like that's the target magnet. The target removal magnet of the deck, I think.
Maybe not the first game that it gets played, or you play against it, but then the second time you're going to know to drop that beast within, because it is an engine that once gets going, the Grave Pact triggers, the Dictate of Erebos, it all adds up. All
right. Next, and let me know if you need a definition here, because I had to look it up myself just to make sure I had them straight. Do you consider yourself to be more of a Timmy, a Johnny, a Spike, or a Vorthos style player?
Yeah, so Timmy is like big creatures stomping, having a good time. Johnny is more of like a cool
it's like combo focus,
but not a Spike, which is like really wants to win and is playing really hard. I would like to say that I'm a bit of a Johnny player. I like to set up, crazy combos over the course of like several turns and just see, amazing synergies. Nothing more than like a kick to Rite of Replication and, do a little bit of fetch lands on 5 or ruin crabs at the same time. I like to see big things come from little cards.
Okay. But no love for Vorthos. You were like, I'm this, but no Vorthos love.
I do love the story. I love Liliana. It goes back to my mono black. I now have a Liliana tribal deck, which is all about. It has all the playable Liliana planeswalkers, and I love learning about the story. But for the most part, my decks, the gameplay, I enjoy. Setting up the engines and letting them go.
Okay, I like it. All right. We debated on how to phrase this question, so earmuffs, I guess, but it won't be that bad, I promise. F ... Marry Kill, Eldraine, Arcavios, which is the planes from Strixhaven, because I know a lot of people kind of forget about it, or why would bring that up, or Innistrad.
So, yeah, that's a great question, Corey. I think I'm going to come out of the gate killing Wilds of Eldraine. I know, that's going to get me a lot of hate in the comments, but I love the fairy tale, but to be quite honest with you, I'm a bigger fan of the Innistrad. I'm effing Innistrad all night long. Innistrad has the, it's got vampires, it's got werewolves, it's got
Toxrill.
Right. I think original Innistrad had a lot of really fun stuff too. I think I'd love, that's consistent. Now I'm going to marry Strixhaven because I am a fan of the at the end of the day I'm a guild player. I like kind of the same association and like the Strixhaven
schools and everything,
schools of magic. So I think that's a very fun world to explore within. I love like the spellcraft and all that sort of stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting a little bit more intimate with Arcavios and Strixhaven.
Yeah, and they did announce that there's going to be like a return. I forget what they titled it, but it's like a return to Strixhaven set in like 2 years.
Sure. It'll be the Chamber of Secrets and then the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Brina and the Chamber of Secrets.
Right.
All right, number 8. Where you're like not halfway, but almost there.
Ramp it up.
What's a commander you will never build a deck around?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think there's commanders I would never build around because I just don't think that they're going to be a fun play experience for other people. And then there's commanders that I would never build around just because they're outright bad. But I kind of I would love to build some decks around just bad commanders.
Like those Dominator United, was it Domain? Like 2-color Domain ones?
So I would say I'm probably going to stick away from Turgid and Toxrill, that sort of thing, just because I know I'm not a huge fan of playing decks that require removal on my commander immediately. But I do think that they're respectable choices, and I love playing against them. Not really, but I'm probably not going to be building them anytime soon.
All right. What's the best removal card no one's using? What's your hot take removal piece?
Doomblade.
Everything dies to Doomblade.
No. That's a great question. Bake into a pie, I think, is a pretty good one.
Okay.
And it's kind of, that's like a funny. I know I was talking about killing Wilds of Eldrainer.
Yeah.
But I do like a lot of these. Turn into a pumpkin. I mean, okay, my favorite. Okay, solid answer is going to be Imprisoned in the Moon. I think Imprisoned in the Moon is slept on. You enchant a creature, a land, or like a planeswalker, and you turn it into a land that produces colorless mana. Unless they have a way to sacrifice lands, like maybe it's getting crop rotated, or there's ways you can do it. It's a real nice way to kind of trap a problem commander or a problem creature in the moon.
I like. What do you think about the? I can't remember the name of it. The one from Doctor Who, where it turns them into face down 2/2 Cybermen.
Oh, I think that those are good cards, but watch out, because when I start playing my Ixodron, I'm flipping face cards back up, baby.
You had that card in case somebody else played that removal against you. All right. Hey, let's be a little personal here.
Let's do it.
What's your land count?
Oh, that's a juicy question. I don't want to get canceled for that one.
22.
No, it depends. If I'm playing a deck that has a lot of dedicated ramp, I'm probably going max 33. But I've been kicking myself in the butt on that a little bit, so I'm up. I would say on average 35.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I build
some MDFCs, maybe.
I tend to try and start my deck plan at 35 and then end somewhere at 33 with 2 or 3 MDFCs and just kind of float it a little bit.
And I'm a really big fan of the channel lands, Takanuma,
those are auto includes,
which sometimes those don't really count as lands. You might cast it, use channeling them more often than you're actually playing them. So my land count's maybe closer to 33 again.
Yeah. I mean, the channel lands definitely, even if you don't have synergy necessarily with the second, with whatever the spell is, I think you still auto-include it. I've got the red one, so Kenzin, in some decks that don't really care about having 1/1 spirits, but I'm in red, it comes in untapped, taps for red, and then
you're going to be
maybe I
need
a blocker. Maybe I just need a blocker,
Yeah, it's unstoppable. They're really good.
All right, moving on. Besides Commander, what is your favorite format?
Well, I love a good draft.
Mhm.
I love a Friday night pre-release where you're drafting like instead of a constructed format. I enjoy sitting around a table, kind of laughing. I am more. I opt to pick the juicy foil rare versus what.
So you draft for money.
I'm not gonna say it, but I do.
Mhm.
I love a good draft. You're never gonna get the same thing twice, and when you go 0-3, you can blame it on the cards, blame it on the packs.
The heart of the pool.
Right, right.
Okay. Rank these other TCGs:
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon, Lorcana,
Sure.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Wow. So that's a really good one. I've played all three of those TCGs. I think they all have great things, great things going for them. But personally, I think Yu-Gi-Oh has the most like translation from Magic, where it just feels like a compacted Magic deck into 40 cards, where you don't have to use the lands, so you get to you're just doing the juice,
Just
and the
all
gas.
spells. Yeah.
I think it's a lot of fun. If you haven't given it a try, it's worth trying.
The-
But after that, believe it or not, I am going to put Lorcana.
Oh,
I know. That's
get in the
crazy.
comments.
Now, don't get me wrong. I love Pokemon. I've collected Pokemon cards since I was like a little boy, and I've always loved the art style. I love and I actually do enjoy the gameplay.
Mhm.
But it is I've built Pokemon decks, and then they've so quickly gotten power creeped to the moon and back. They've been imprisoned in the moon. I have nothing against Pokemon, but I think Lorcana is a very fun Magic alternative that has a lot of similar rules and is a great starter for a future Magic player.
I think it's, we talked about it on our Lorcana episode, but it definitely is like, if you understand Magic really well, you can hop into it very easily.
Right.
It's a little faster gameplay than Commander. Yeah, I could see that. All right. What is a mechanic that needs more attention?
Well, man, if you watched our keyword action or our keyword abilities episode, there's one thing that we kind of noticed, that there are a whole list of keyword actions, and these are things like discard or something like explore, which is an action rather than like an ability like trample or vigilance or something like that. And so I think there are a lot of really cool actions that need to get more additional attention.
Yeah, more love.
I've been like we were talking about earlier with the channeling. I think channeling is a really cool mechanic, and that playing things from the hand without playing them from the hand.
Sure.
I think there's one, I don't know if I can really talk about it because I know it's Cory's love child, but fate sealing is a keyword action, which is very interesting. It's kind of like about scrying your opponent's cards, and there's only like one card that has that word on it in all of Magic, so flush that out, and that's going to make for some toxic fun Magic.
And that's a card that, like, I would love to slot into more decks if it wasn't like 4 mana. Like, if it was like that same effect on 2 or 3, I could see it being like, oh, I need 100 cards, Okay. I'm gonna throw you back in the pit. So we talked about the land count, but now we're gonna talk about, should Sol Ring be banned?
Oh, well, okay. The easy answer to that is no, because it's in every single precon already. It's so ubiquitous. Everybody who is playing Magic for now and for future will always get a Sol Ring in their commander deck. And so to ban it would be to tell everybody that's ever bought a Magic deck that their deck is now illegal to play without being edited. And the whole purpose of the precon, and the reason why you don't see any like double-sided precon cards, is because they want you to have all the materials that you need to play. And if you have double-sided cards, the backside wouldn't be able to be shuffled in if you weren't using sleeves, because you'd see it in your deck. And so I think that there's no chance in in anything that there's going to be a day where Soul Ring is banned. But I am a Soul Ring hater, and because it just makes for such unfun games. If everybody gets a Soul Ring and you don't, like, you're
okay,
I'm
but
out, man.
You're a Soul Ring hater. But how many decks do you have that do not have Soul Ring in it?
I have a couple, but my most famous Soul Ringless deck is Sigarda, the Host of Herons, which is my Enchantress deck that has no artifacts whatsoever, so no Soul Ring, no Arcane Signet, no boots. I'm just trying to, I'm okay playing without Soul Ring and having just as much fun.
I don't believe it. I think every deck Cole builds, he's like, I need my rings and I need my shoes. I'm a fashionable boy and we're out to play. All right. This is a weirdly specific to one color question. Okay. I don't know why we got this and not any of the other colors.
Let's see it.
Best green game ender. Pathbreaker Ibex, Avenger Zendikar, Craterhoof Behemoth.
Okay, well, I gotta be straight up with you because Avenger of Zendikar does not end the game. It is really strong and it's very fun, but combined with either of those cards, it's awesome. But by itself, it's not ending the game. I gotta say, I love Pathbreaker Ibex. I think it's a little bit more fun because unless it has haste, there's a little bit more of a build up for it. You can give it haste, and even like without it being a game-ending card, it's strong on its own, and it makes a lot of like attacks that you never would have been able to do plausible in that mid-game. Whereas a Craterhoof, you're never dropping a value Craterhoof Behemoth
with no board.
Right. And if you are, more power to you, man. But I'm a Pathbreaker Ibex simp.
It's reusable, which is something that is not the case with Craterhoof.
Well, I'll tell you, man. I've won games off of playing a Clever Impersonator or Phyrexian Metamorph onto people's Craterhoof Behemoth. Because you're just like that ETB is so strong, and it applies to any deck. It's a great game ender, but if you're going for style points, it has to be Pathbreaker Ibex.
Okay, I agree with that. Also, let's talk about this Pathbreaker Ibex. Well, it's not no money compared to Craterhoof. It's not Craterhoof money.
And I know Craterhoof has come down a lot in the last couple years. Like, I would imagine it's probably sitting at around $20 now. But the Pathbreaker Ibex, can we get our computer guy to check that? Computer guy? All right.
I'm the computer guy. I'll put it here in post. We'll go Craterhoof, Pathbreaker Ibex, and then like a flow chart.
Say in the comments if you're also an Avenger of Zendikar. It's not a game ender, but it's a great card, and I do love it. It would take the cake if it actually did anything other than build a big board. Yeah. You got a Perforos out? That might be a game ender, but it's not doing it on its own. Perforos. 0-1s without extra lands. There's 0-1s.
Perforos is the best mono green game ender. I'll have you know. Okay. Should all instants just be sorceries with flash?
Going forward, I think Magic in 2034, that's all it's going to be.
It's going to be like, it used to say interrupt. It was like, no more interrupt, no more instant. It's all just sorcery.
I love sorceries. I love flash. I think taking out instants makes a lot of commanders that rely on casting instants, which are already on my blank list. So
You're Mary? Is it the F list or the Mary list?
Barals, that sort of thing. So, just kidding.
What's your stance on the reserve list?
So yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I know with like the Magic, anniversary where they released all of those kind of like proxied reserve list cards, that was a huge piece of news when that happened.
It was a huge piece of something.
I gotta say, I like the history of the game. I like that there's, at the end of the day, you can proxy anything and put it in your deck. I'm not like too worried. Yeah. Obviously, you're not going to be proxying Black Lotuses, but there's some reserve list cards that are only expensive because they were only printed in that set. Otherwise they'd be a throwaway dollar rare. And so I do enjoy the history of the game, and I have a bit of reserve list in my collection, but I'm not opposed to anybody using those cards. And if they eventually, I imagine they will they will break their rules on the reserve list and
At
reprint
some
them.
point, yeah.
So, or at the very least, something that's been power crept and up enough that it is a actual replacement. But as a collector of Magic, I love the older cards just as much as I love the newer cards.
Yeah, and I think this is a good point too. Like, because a lot of stuff on the reserve list is not necessarily powerful anymore. Like, it's all been power crept out except for certain cards.
Sure.
But, a common from, like, Arabian Nights is not really holding its own in today's game anyways.
There are tons of cards, and if you look up like list on the reserve list, you can sort them by price, and you'll see that there are cards that you can get that are reserve list cards that will never be reprinted again.
Yeah.
That are under $1. Autumn. Like I have several. I've bought a ton of these cards just on the off chance that in 30 years, it'll be like, this awful common.
You have Ice Age, whatever. Yeah.
But they've gone up in price a little bit, but realistically, who's to say?
All right. Besides you and I, who is the content creator you've most enjoyed playing a game with?
Oh, well,
Get in the comments. If you don't hear your name and you're a creator, get in the comments because he's putting you on blast right now. You sucked at whatever game you all played.
No, this is a question that's designed to make enemies of myself.
This is one of those, like, I had a great game with so-and-so, but it doesn't discount how much I enjoyed playing with everybody else.
Absolutely. I like he said, I've enjoyed playing with so many different creators. I've been really lucky to. Obviously, our good friend John from Chaotic Commander. He is just such a great. He's a great dude and is always like linking us up with so many fun people to play with. And so I'm very lucky to have been able to play with so many content creators because of him. And so I'd say a huge thank you to John from Chaotic Commander. But in terms of in-person games, I actually had a very fun game at Command Fest with John Likes Games. He's a really nice commander, or a nice content creator. You should check him out. Not just to give him a shout out, but he's a really good dude, and we had a really fun time chatting and playing at Command Fest maybe about a year ago at this point.
Okay. All right. This one's from me.
Okay.
So let's be upfront about this. Cole, are you finally willing to admit that you do play that Scarab God deck?
Whoa, cut the camera. No, I refuse. My Scarab God deck is a little bit blinged out. It is a passion project that has been, crafted over years and years and years, and it is, I would say, a catered and fun experience in every game it plays. But I will say that I've always claimed it's not really a mill deck. I've started saying in my most recent games, it's kind of a mill deck. It has some mill sub-themes. I'm not trying to mill your whole library in one fell swoop, but I'm trying to, I gotta say, I get a lot of enemies when I play this deck, and so maybe my perception is skewed.
Yeah. We'll leave it at that. All right. Final question.
Yeah.
You've made it through a gauntlet of 19 horrific questions. Oh, well, except mine. Mine was a great question. 18 horrific questions.
Right.
One gold standard question. But to wrap it up, what is the one experience you've had since being on the podcast that stuck with you the most?
Oh, well, honestly, Cory, not to be cheesy with it, but I'm super appreciative of being brought on. And so, honestly, that first episode when I got a chance to talk with you guys, and I felt like we had such a fun conversation, and I've been very happy to be a part of the podcast ever since. And so we've been working hard. We're getting up on our consistency, but I think that this has just been a very I expected it to be a kind of a closed off and difficult area to get into, but everybody is just so friendly and willing to talk to you about their resources and things that have helped them and building their channels. And so this whole thing has just been a real positive experience. Okay. But I'm very grateful for you, and so Thanksgiving is coming up. I don't know when this is going to come out, but I'm thankful for this man and all the work that he puts in editing all this. And
I put in very little work.
That's not true. He's humble, but he is putting.
As you guys can tell, not that much work.
Well, we're building up to it, so that's it.
All right, guys. Well, thanks to Cole for being vetted through your 20 questions today. If you guys like this format, you want us to hop on and do other video content and stuff for the channel, let us know. Hit that thumbs up, hit the like. Well, I guess the thumbs up is the like button.
Right.
Hit it twice. Hit it 3 times. That way when you hit it the second time to unlike, you hit it a third time to re-like
it.
Yeah.
And log into any other accounts you have. You can like it on those too, just for good measure.
Yeah, if you know any bots out there, send them our way too. But yeah, let us know if you like this kind of content, because we would definitely like to kind of expand a little bit more and get to know you guys beyond just recording a podcast every week. But with that being said, we're going to hop off. See you next time.
Later, guys. Sounds good.